Machiavelli understood that the world only respects strategy, never struggle. And right now, you've been mistaking your silence for surrender, when it's actually the only thing keeping your position intact. Here's the part nobody tells you. When everyone has already written you off, their certainty that you're finished is the exact cover you need to rebuild without anyone watching closely enough to stop you. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 8 shifts that turn being underestimated from a wound into a weapon. And the very first one will change how you read every dismissive look you get this week. People don't actually believe you're finished. They believe it's convenient to treat you that way. Because a man written off is a man who stops being checked on, competed with, or taken seriously as a threat. That convenience is your advantage, if you're disciplined enough to use it, instead of fighting to disprove it. 1. Stop performing your comeback. The moment you announce that you're rebuilding, you hand your timeline to people who benefit from your delay. A king doesn't narrate his recovery. He simply becomes undeniable and lets the result do the explaining. Comment this phrase if you understand. My silence is the plan. 2. Let their underestimation become your cover. When a coworker assumes you've checked out after a setback, they stop watching what you're actually building on the side. When a former friend assumes your business failed for good, they stop paying attention to the version you're quietly assembling. Being dismissed removes the audience that would otherwise interfere, and a king treats that absence of scrutiny as room to work. Here's the part that's uncomfortable to admit. Some of what feels like rejection from the world is actually just you finally being left alone long enough to think clearly. That discomfort is worth sitting with before you decide it's only pain. 3. Study who disappears, not who stays. When things fall apart, attention separates people into 2 categories instantly. Those who were loyal to your usefulness, and those who were loyal to you. The business partner, who goes quiet the moment the deal stops being profitable, was never an ally. He was a tenant. The friend who stays through the version of you with nothing to offer is showing you the only relationship worth rebuilding around. 3. Comment this phrase, I remember who stayed. 4. Control the face you show before you've controlled the outcome. A man who lets every setback show on his face teaches everyone exactly when he's vulnerable. If your face changes every time someone doubts your plan, you've just told them precisely which words land. Practice the version of your expression that gives away nothing, not coldness, just unreadability, because the strategist who can't be read can't be pressured. 5. Treat every dismissal as data, not as a verdict. When your former boss tells people you weren't ready for the promotion, that's not a judgment on your future. It's information about how he positions threats. And when a sibling implies you've always been the one who struggles, that's not truth. It's a role they've assigned you to keep the family dynamic stable. A king extracts the intelligence from disrespect and discards the emotional sting because the sting was never the point. The pattern underneath it is. 6. Build the one thing they can't argue with. Opinions about your potential are cheap and endless, but results are expensive to dismiss. The cousin who mocked your first failed venture has nothing left to say once the second one is profitable. The relationship that called you incapable of commitment has no rebuttal once you've built something stable that doesn't need their validation to survive. Stop arguing your case in conversation and start building the case that doesn't need words. We're past the halfway point now. And here's the question worth sitting with. Of everyone who's underestimated you this year, which one do you most want to prove right about themselves, not about you? 7. Refuse the timeline they've assigned you. Every person who's written you off has quietly decided when your window has closed. Too old to start over, too far behind to catch up, too damaged from the last failure to try again. None of that is fact. It's their projection of their own limits onto your life. A king moves on a timeline nobody else gets to set, because borrowed deadlines only ever serve the people who handed them to you. 8. Let your calm become the thing they can't explain. The strangest discomfort you can create in someone who expects you to be broken is staying composed anyway. Confusion is more powerful than confrontation. When you refuse to give the reaction someone is fishing for, you take away the only leverage their disrespect had. Comment this phrase, my calm is my throne. Here's the realization underneath all 8 of these. Being treated like a failure was never a sentence. It was a temporary cover, and the only way to waste it is by spending your energy trying to convince people who've already decided not to see you. The version of you that gets built in that silence, unwatched and unannounced, is the only version that ever actually changes anything. Nobody claps for a man while he's still laying the foundation. They only show up once the building is impossible to ignore, and by then, your silence will have done more work than your defense ever could have. If this gave you something to sit with, that's the entire point of it. If you want the next layer of this, what actually happens to the people who disrespected you once you stop reacting, watch why the quietest person is always the most dangerous. Next, because that's where this pattern goes the deepest. Take care of yourself.